So 3.7 should be a review of writing and graphing equations in the coordinate plane. So let's go over some things. It is your responsibility to have mastered this. So let's look at a couple of review questions. Listening? Listen. All right, so I want you to answer questions 1 through 3. An ordered pair describes the location of a point in a coordinate grid. Is that true or false? That is true. An ordered pair can be written as x coordinate, comma y coordinate, or y coordinate, comma x coordinate. That is false. What part is false? The second part, so cross that part out. Number 3, the ordered pair for the origin is 0, 0. That is true. Then they've got a definition here for slope. The slope of a line between 2 points on a coordinate plane is the ratio. So the slope is the ratio of the vertical change to the horizontal change. What I prefer and your calculus teachers prefer is that slope is defined as the rate of change. Keyword is rate of change. Bless you. The rate of change of y to x. That's really what it is. It's a ratio. This is how you find it. And you are responsible for knowing that formula. I will not give it to you. So you find the difference in the y's and divide it by the difference in the x's. The x term that belongs to your y term, they must be vertical to each other. So it does make a difference what order you put the x's and y's in. So each ordered pair must be vertical to each other, and the y's have to go up top. So it's a vertical change over a horizontal. And then we're going to go to the next page. So I don't care about the rest of those questions. So then when you're finding slope, so if I'm looking at this line right here, if you're given the graph of a line, you can actually find the slope just by stair stepping it. Find 2 ordered pairs on the line. So here's one ordered pair right here, and here's the other ordered pair right here. You can stair step your way vertical and horizontal to those, either above or below the graph. So if I were to draw a right triangle from here to here, that's my slope. My rise is how far? 4, and it's a positive 4, because I'm going up. My run is how far? 3, and that's a positive 3 because I'm going to the right. Up and right are positives, down and left are your negatives. Now if I had gone below, I would have still had 4 this direction, but what would it have been? Negative 4, and my run would still have been 3, but what would it have been? Negative 3, and what's a negative 4 over negative 3? It's still a positive 4/3. So it doesn't matter whether you stair step above or below the line. So if they give me a line, I'm going to stair step my slope any day. I'm not going to do the math. Much easier to count than it is to do the math. Also bear in mind that I can look at any line and look at the top of the line and tell whether it's a positively sloped line or a negatively sloped line. Here's your x and y axes right here. This is quadrant 1, and it is known as a positive quadrant because look at what it's bordered by. Quadrant 1 is bordered by positives and positives. A positive times a positive is a positive. Quadrant 2, however, is bordered by positives and negatives, so it's a positive times a negative. So any line that is pointing towards quadrant 2 is going to be a negatively sloped line. So this line right here is negatively sloped. Just tell what it's over the line. Then you have you have a vertical line and a horizontal line. What is the slope of a vertical line? It is not 0. It is undefined. And you're not allowed to use the word no slope because I don't know what you guys mean by no slope, because a lot of times when you say no slope, you think it's 0 slope. 0 slope means that your line is not inclined whatsoever. It has no angle of degree to it at all. So that would be this line here. So So horizontal lines that have zero slope, you can still walk on them. So the floor here is a zero line slope, I can walk on it. So write yourself a note that this line here, m is equal to 0, and that's horizontal. But this line here, m is undefined. I can attest to the fact that you cannot walk on a vertical line. I tried to walk up the wall, actually I tried to run up the wall, and I snapped all the tendons in my ankle. So it put me in two casts and a third surgery after that. So I don't do it anymore. No, I'm serious. My husband blocked it off with the bookcase there and normally my podium there. That kept me from running up. Because I wanted to prove to you, the only person who can run up a vertical line is who?
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man. Spider-Man was here yesterday, by the way.
Wait.
Somebody was going to do Spider-Man.
Make a demonstration to a math class.
Yes.
Yourself in the
I
hospital.
used to do it every, yeah, I used to do it every year, but now my husband gets mad at me because I always get hurt. Probably first grade.
She gets all much for me.
Well, it wakes you up. Let me just put it that way, but I'm getting a little too old for that now. So my point is, when you're looking at a line, vertical or horizontal, and you're trying to determine, is it a zero slope or an undefined slope, remember, which one can you walk on? I can walk on a horizontal line. That's the floor. So that has a zero slope. I cannot walk up a vertical line without help, unless I'm Spider-Man. So that's undefined. And let's talk about why that is. If I went from this point to this point, right there, wouldn't my slope be, how far is it from this point to this point? So 4, and that's your horizontal distance. What's the vertical distance between the 2 points? So isn't that the fraction 0 over 4? And doesn't that equal 0? Because I can take 0 and have nothing, and I can split it into 4 groups. Each group will have what? Nothing. But here, my vertical distance between, oh, I don't know, these 2 points. What's my vertical distance here? 7. So it's 7 over what's my horizontal distance between these 2 points? There is no horizontal distance, right? There's no right-left distance. 7 over 0. I cannot ever have 0 in the denominator of a fraction. That is undefined. And so that's where those come from. So I want you to find the slope of this line algebraically between these 2 points. So what are your y values? 7 and 3. So if I start with 7 here, I have to start with its x value, 5, right directly below it, and then the other x value is 2. Didn't I still get 4/3? So algebraically or stair-stepping, you ought to be able to get it. Now, you can't totally rely on plotting your line, plotting your 2 points, and then stair-stepping from there, because if the 2 points are really far apart from each other, you're not going to be able to count. So you do have to know the algebra. All right, so a couple things we're going to use here to write the equations of lines. We are going to use slope-intercept form and point-slope form. So this is slope-intercept, and this is point-slope. Both very useful forms of a line. Slope-intercept is very useful for graphing. Point-slope is useful for writing the equation of a line. There's a lot of teachers that will teach writing the equation of a line using slope-intercept. It's much more difficult, more riddled with errors. This is much easier to write the equation of a line using point-slope. So I'm going to expect you to be using point-slope. Okay, so this one's going to walk you through it, and then we're going to do some on our own. So you are to graph y equals 3x minus 4. So what form is that equation written in? So this is slope-intercept. So what is the slope on this line? It's 3, and we want to view slope as a fraction. So I always view slope as 2 different fractions. So when it's not currently a fraction, just put over 1. So we have 3 over 1. And that tells you what your vertical rise is and what your horizontal run is. Or you can always view slope in two different directions. I want an equivalent fraction to 3 over 1, but has all opposite signs. So change the sign of the 3 to negative 3, and change the sign of the 1 to negative 1. Would you agree that negative 3 over negative 1 is exactly the same as 3 over 1? Okay. And all that means is, here's my up and here's my up, down, or my right, left. So if I have a positive 3, I'm going to go what direction? Because you're either going to go up or down for your vertical, or you're going to go right or left for your horizontal. Up means you have a positive number, down means you have a negative number in the numerator. Right means you have a positive number, left means you have a negative number. Just the direction of those axes. So, just looking at the line, they're asking me what's one point on the graph. Isn't that your y-intercept? If it's your y-intercept, they're telling you what the y value is negative 4. What's the x value? 0. So plot that point over here. And then we're going to stair step this slope. I can't do negative 3, negative 1 because I can't go down 3. I ran out of room. But I can go up 3, 1, 2, 3, and then positive 1 because I flush you, go to the right one. So keep going all the way until the graph is filled. Up 3 to the right one. Up 3 to the right one. And then you better use a straight edge to connect. That thing hanging around your neck is a great straight edge if you don't have a ruler. If you hand draw your lines, I will mark off for it. Just sloppy, sloppy. Okay, so start with your y-intercept, stair step that slope. So some of you are like, okay, yeah, I know how to do that. Others of you, you're still fuzzy from algebra 1, 2. Okay, so flip. Now we're going to write the equation of the line. So if they give you a slope and a y-intercept, I would not be using point slope. Point slope, you need a point and a slope. So if they give me slope and a y-intercept, there's no work really to be shown. I'm going to immediately use y equals mx plus b. Immediately. Which one of these is m? Yeah, so this is my m, and that means this is my b. So there's really nothing to do. So you can fill in this one. So your equation is y equals, instead of slope, we're going to put in the negative 1/2 x. And then if your y-intercept is positive, you're going to put a plus here. If your y-intercept is negative, you'll put a negative there. And so in this case, we have a plus 2. And then we could graph that. Where would you start graphing it? At 2 on the y-axis. And then what would your stair step be? If the negative 1 were in the numerator, what would you do? Down 1 and then right 2. What if we put the negative in the denominator? So the 1's positive. You go up 1, but to the left 2, and it would get you on the same line. All right, so use 2 points to write an equation. So they've walked you through it here. I'm going to give you another one to do here in a minute, but they've walked you through it here, and all we're going to do is start with point slope form. They have given you 2 ordered pairs. When you're given 2 ordered pairs, you first have to find what? So all I have are 2 ordered pairs, and I have those 3 things that I'm setting it for. So I have 1 point I need and a slope, but they've given me 2 points. If I'm given 2 points, what would I have to find first? Slope. So the very first thing, which they neglected to mention here, the very first thing is find slope. And they did plot the 2 ordered pairs here, and you could stair step the slope, but we're going to use our algebra. So technically, you know, I'm really big on templates. There's my slope template. All I did was take out the y sub 1, y sub 2, x sub 1, and x sub 2. And if I were you, I would label these as x sub 1, y sub 1, x sub 2, y y sub 2. And then put them in here where they belong. Well, the first one's y sub 2. So I'm going to put in 5. And then y sub 1 is negative 1. X sub 2 is 3. And x sub 1 is negative 1. The purpose for writing the template first is a great example right here. If you don't put in the negatives to begin with, oftentimes I get 5 minus 1 here instead of 5 minus a negative 1. Will that make a difference? Big difference. So take care of your double negatives. So I've got plus plus and plus plus. So I end up with 6 over 5. Or, well, I'm not graphing, so we're going to use 6 over 5. So now I have my slope. Then this would be step 2. They have chosen one of the 2 ordered pairs to plug in. It doesn't matter which one you choose. We're going to plug in the other ordered pair on the other side and see what we get. So if I plugged in, I'm going to do step 2 over here, they chose to plug in the negative 1 and the negative 2, I would never have chosen those 2 points, or that point. Why? I would have chosen this point. Why? It's all positive numbers. You get to choose what point you want. So I would be choosing the one that has either zeros or positive numbers in it. I'm certainly not going to choose the one that has the negatives, but their point for choosing that is make sure that you put in that template first. So in other words, I'm going to write y minus and then space equals something times x minus. That's my template. You have to put in those negatives first because if I did put in the negative 2 and the negative 1, they have to come behind the negative. They become positive. So instead, I'm going to put in 3 and 5. So 3 goes in for my x, 5 would go in for my y, and my slope I would replace with 6/5. Now let's stop here for a moment and talk about what is point slope form. If they ask you for your answer to stay in point slope form, the only thing you have to take care of are any double negatives. So like on this one, we had double negatives here and here. So notice that they took care of them by making them plus plus. So this would be considered final point slope form. And this one right here is also final point slope form. No double negatives to take care of. The only other thing you'd have to be careful of is zeros. If any one of these items in red is a 0, you have to perform the math. So if I had x minus 0, isn't that just x? Or if I had y minus 0, that's just y. If your slope is 0, what's 0 times everything here? So you would have the right side just being 0. You do have to be careful in point slope form that if you do have 0, that you don't go too far. You just have to take one step and do the math for 0. Do not solve for y. And don't distribute. So if you're leaving it point slope form, you don't distribute, it's really hard for somebody to stop that because you're going to train to do that. So then look at 18. It's essentially the 2 forms that we just wrote. Here's my form, and then here's their form. And they want you to put it into slope-intercept form. So I'm going to do the first one, and you're going to do the second one. And so oftentimes if they say, write the equation of the line in slope-intercept form, that doesn't mean that you start with slope-intercept form. You would start with point-slope form, and you get down to this point, and depending upon which ordered pair you use, turns out which one of these at this side, and then you would solve that equation for y. So in order to solve the equation for y, I cannot add 5 to both sides first, because I've got parentheses here that still need to be cleared. You have to distribute whatever's out in front of the parentheses to what's inside. So I end up with y minus 5 equals 6/5 times x is 6/5 x. And 6/5 times a negative 3 is a negative. The 3 does not cancel with a 5, so it gets multiplied to the 6. So I get 18 over 5, which is never any fun. Now that I have parentheses clear, can't I solve for y? Yes? What do I do? They're not like terms. Because this doesn't have an x. So I want to get the y by itself. So add my 5. So here's the problem when you have a fraction. I can't add 5 to the negative 18/5 because it's not a like denominator. So we're going to fix that in a So on the left I have y equals, which is what I want. I have 6/5 x, so that's y equals mx. Now I have to deal with this 5. So if I were to put the 5 over 1, and I want both of these to be the same denominator, what do I have to multiply the 1 by to get to a 5? A 5. So if I multiply this by a 5, I have to multiply that by a 5. And so don't I end up with negative 18/5 for negative 18/5? That doesn't change. But 5 times 5 is 25. It's positive. So now I've got negative 18 and 25. What does that give me? 7/5. And it's positive. So plus 7/5. So this is my equation in slope-intercept form. It's ugly, but there it is. Now I want you to put the second one into slope-intercept form. Going through the same process. I'm coming around to check on this, you gotta be working. I've got my wet noodle ready. I'm gonna feed you with my wet noodle. What did we notice about the two equations for 18? They should be the same, right? Because you're using, and they are the same, you are using, they're supposed to be the same line. You're just using two different points. So you were originally given 2 points. You found the slope. You used the slope in one of the points for this line, and the other point on the same slope for this line. They should technically be on the same line, so they should technically be the same line, and they are. They do end up being that same line. So the point of this is it doesn't matter what ordered pair you use in point slope. If you put both of those equations into slope-intercept form, they should be the same line. So in point slope, they look different, but they are the same line. So are there any questions about that? Are you okay? Yeah. Yeah? Sure. Yeah. Okay. All right, so number 19, we're going to underline a few things here. So the equations are what? The same. Choosing -2, -1 gives the same equation as choosing 3, 5 in slope-intercept form. Point slope form, they appear to be different, but the values of the equations are the same. So the equations here and here, those are your point slope equations, are equivalent. All right, so last page. What are the equations for the horizontal and vertical lines through 4, -3? Well, let's plot 4, -3. Vertical line, is that up, down, or right, left? It is up, down. So So if I were to write a vertical line going through here, here's how you easily find the equations of vertical lines. What is this ordered pair right here? 4, 2. Everybody agree? What's this ordered pair here? 4, 4. What's this ordered pair? 4, 5. What's this ordered pair? 4, negative 4. What do you notice about all those ordered pairs? What's all 4? The x value. What axis does this vertical line go through? The x-axis. So all vertical lines, so a vertical line is up, down. All vertical lines are in the equation in the form of x equals some number. So whatever number that vertical line goes through at the x-axis, that's the equation. So since this one goes through the x-axis at 4, the equation is x equals positive 4. So then the horizontal line through that same point would go this way. So horizontal lines go right, left. What's this ordered pair here? 2, negative 3. How about this ordered pair here? Negative 1, negative 3. This ordered pair? Negative 3, negative 3. What do you notice about all those ordered pairs? Negative 3, negative 3. 1, negative 3. 1, negative 3. Negative 1, negative 3. 2, negative 3. 5, negative 3. What do you notice about all of them? The y values are all negative 3. What axis does it go through? The y-axis. So this is y equals negative 3. So all horizontal lines go through the y-axis, so they are always y equals some number. And the slope of all vertical lines is what? Can I walk up that line? No, so what do you call it? Undefined. You're not allowed to say no slope, so you use the word ud. I don't know what the book is going to say. I haven't looked at the answer, but I'm requiring you to use the words undefined or ud. And then horizontal lines. Can I walk on this line? Quite easily. So what is its slope? 0. So those are the things that you need to know. So then let's answer these questions. Every point on a horizontal line through 4, negative 3 has a y-coordinate of negative 3. True or false? That's true. The equation of a vertical line through 4, negative 3 is y equals negative 3. That was false. That was false. But this one here is true. So this is the correct one. And then we already found. So, a classmate found the slope of the line passing through 8, negative 2 and 8, 10, as shown at the right. Describe your classmate's error, then find the correct slope of the line passing through the given point. So please determine the error here and write down what you have to say, and then we'll be done. Mariah, will you talk to Zoe behind you? Say hello to Zoe behind you. Oh, did you?
We also have.
Did you? Did they make them spell? Oh, yeah. You, oh, you did. They're a very friendly class. All right, so what's the error? What about the slope? Sam? They flip the x and the y, and that's the most common error, is to put the difference in the x's up top and the difference in the y's below. So the class may put that means change in x, but the change in x in the numerator instead of the denominator and vice versa. So if you were to find yourself correctly, I happen to choose 10 to come first. You could have chosen -2 to come first, and that would be fine. You would have -12 over 0. But what's anything over 0? Undefined. You cannot leave your slope as 12 over 0 or -12 over 0. You have to tell me that you know it's undefined. If it were in the reverse, 0 over 12, you can't leave it that way. You have to tell me that it's 0. And so because it's undefined, I know I have a vertical line. Okay. Any issues, problems, concerns? All right, if you get stuck, you need to rewatch the video. Open your textbook. Look at the nerd video on the Pearson Math Success Net, whatever, that you have the passwords to. Because I will not be here Thursday or Friday. Right. Tomorrow Friday. I know, it's a Wednesday already.
It's Birthday.